If you were going to give your last speech, last talk, what would you talk about?
Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and life is all about not being here to please everyone. A lot of us have something to say, but the things that hold us back in life are our own fears and doubts and insecurities about who we are.
Hi, and welcome to Speaker Life. I'm your host, Leah Woodford, and with me today is, you guys are going to love this. This is the amazing Colin Egglesfield, Hollywood actor, speaker, and just amazing podcaster. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Thanks, Leah. Glad to be here.
So Colin and I met about a month ago in Vegas at the Podcast Pitch Fest, and we just bonded. But I thought it would be so interesting to have a Hollywood actor because you're also on a stage, but a stage of a different sort. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Many different stages. And I would say from going from TV and film stages to now speaking in front of audiences, there's some things that translate, some things that are similar, but there's a lot of things that are different. And there's the whole business aspect of growing your speaker business behind the scenes. That's why I'm grateful to have met you, because you're the expert in this space, and you've taught me a lot so far, and I'm looking forward to just continuing to learn more.
Well, Colin, you have an interesting background. You and I we have both experienced cancer 3 times. So he's a survivor, but he has an interesting story about your time in New York. Can we talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So I was studying acting for maybe 3 years. My background is I grew up outside of Chicago. I was planning on going to medical school, went to the University of Iowa, and I wasn't 100% sure if that's what I really wanted to do. I mean, at 19, 20, 21 years old, how can you expect to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
And I just was going on this path of, well, I guess I got to do this because that's what everyone else is doing. In my senior year, I heard on the radio about this model talent search, and it was come to the Model Search America, whatever, at the Davenport Holiday next Tuesday night. So I just on a whim went to this thing, got hooked up with these 2 women who hooked me up with an agency in Chicago. And I think this is where sometimes in life we have these opportunities to, these doors open up to us. And without really stepping into them, how do we know what life is going to be about? Especially when you grow up in the Midwest and your opportunity to experience things is very limited. So it's very hard to make an empowered decision, especially about what you want to do for the rest of your life, if your experiences in life have been limited. So I knew at the very least, this may give me the opportunity to just kind of get out, see the world a little bit. And it was amazing. And I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to travel, to just get out, go explore, go over to Europe. And what this whole experience did for me was they sent me to Milan, Italy, and I was doing these runway shows for Giorgio Armani and Versace. And so I was like, okay, I think medical school can wait for a year or two. And this is where, as you know, as we're growing up, it's important, and this is what I learned, you've got to advocate for yourself, and you've really got to start standing up for intuitively what matters to you. And this was difficult because I was a people pleaser growing up, and I always just wanted to, get good grades and make my parents proud. But I started to realize that, my parents aren't going to be around forever, and I've got to live with my decisions for the rest of my life. And so I want to make the right decision that I know that fulfills me and fuels me and inspires me. And so what I experienced over in Europe was just meeting Giorgio Armani. And he was incredibly inspiring to be around someone who took his passion for art and his artistry for creating these amazing clothes. It made me start to think that maybe I could do something that was more resonated with my artistic side or my passions for life. I've always been interested in art and creativity and that sort of thing, but I never realized you could make a career out of art and artistry. And so I felt like I was in this space of like, okay, well, if someone like a Giorgio Armani is able to create this incredible, successful empire.
What a role model.
Yeah.
At such a young age,
Yeah.
right?
And then from there, I moved to New York City and was doing this modeling stuff. And they started sending me on commercial auditions that required no acting. So it was like, go audition to drive this car. So I booked a Pontiac car commercial, shaving in the mirror. Again, really no acting required. And I started to book some of these commercials, and my commercial agent said, have you ever thought about doing television and film? And I was like, God, I wouldn't know the first thing about that. So she said, why don't you take an acting class and just see if you like it? And again, this door opened up, and once I jumped into this acting class, I was like, this is incredible. I felt like for the first time in my life, it was a safe space to practice authentically connecting with another human being. And you had the words on a page, so I didn't have to come up with the words. I could just read them off the page. And I was like, wait a minute, this is what I've been trying to say for like years. I just didn't know how to say it. So it was great to practice having these authentic and confrontational conversations and learning how to get out of my own way and not make it about myself, but really show up to serve the writer, the director, the producers of these projects. And long story short, 2 years of taking acting class, on the morning of 9/11, I woke up and heard the sirens and the noises outside of my apartment because I was living across the street, and I went to my window, and the West Side Highway normally was full of cars. But when I went there, it was empty, and fire trucks and police cars started driving up, and I saw debris starting to hit the street, and I was like, what is going on here? And I had to get down to look up to see the top of the North Tower, and I saw flames coming out of the building, and then I quickly started to notice that there were people hanging out of the windows above the flames. And that's when I realized, okay, something's not right here. So I grabbed my video camera and I started videotaping, and then turn on the TV, and it was like a plane hit the World Trade Center, and I was like, wow, a student Cessna or something, I don't know, maybe who knew what was going on at that time. And then when the second plane hit, I have it on video, and I'll never forget just that experience of just, it was almost like unreal. And after that, I realized something wasn't right. So I ran down 18 flights of stairs, went outside of my building, and there was a bunch of us just standing outside watching. And before I knew it, we just started seeing people jumping from the towers. Something you can't unsee. And it was just this horrible experience of feeling helpless, and wanting to do something, but not knowing what to do. And after a while, I couldn't stand there and watch this anymore. So I started to walk up the street, and I went into a deli to grab some water, and I went inside, and all of a sudden the ground started shaking and the lights went out, and it was this huge explosion noise. And I ran outside, and people were running down the street. So I just ran down the street, got to a clearing, and saw the gray cloud of smoke coming at us. So we ran up the street and got up to Houston Street, turned around and saw the second tower fall down. And the whole experience at that point, I realized I was just kind of in shock, I guess, because I felt like, all right, what do I need to do to navigate this and get through this? And it wasn't until a few days later I was able to get back into my apartment, and my windows had been blown in because when the tower fell, it just blew out all the windows of my apartment building. And I went up there with a National Guard soldier, and he said, you have 10 minutes to grab whatever you can put into a suitcase, and then you get out of here. And just to walk into your home and see it destroyed, debris, metal beams and brick and pieces of carpet and dust everywhere. I was like, all right, I got to just get out of here, grab whatever I can. And I went checked into a hotel, and I really started to ask myself some deep questions about, okay, I feel like I just survived something horribly, impactful. And
How did you process that?
I think it takes a while to process that. The one thing that I did focus on was, where do I go from here? And it was more out of survival than anything. And I realized, well, I can't really stay here because I don't have a home anymore. And the only thing I kept thinking about was this, on a deep level, what meant something to me. And this idea of telling these stories that inspire people and allowed me to start coming out of my own shell, to be more confident in life and to share more about who I am on a deep, authentic level. I thought there was something here with this acting, but the idea of going out to Hollywood to pursue this career as an actor and be the next Tom Cruise, I think sometimes if we think about something on a level that's too big, it can prevent us from even starting. And I was like, you know what? What do I have to lose? And what really made the motivating factor for me to decide to move out to LA was I just kept thinking about the people that I saw trapped up in those windows where they were hanging out and seeing people jumping. I thought, if I were one of those people up there and God or whoever, someone came up to me and said, Colin, I'm going to give you a second chance at life. And if you really think about anyone out there, if this were to happen to you, what would you do? What would you do with your life from that moment forward? And I realized I want to do this. The only thing that is stopping me is my own limiting beliefs about who I am and what I'm capable of. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to just forget about that. And for like one of the first times in my life, I'm going to do what feels right and what resonates to me on a deep level without trying to please anyone else, but really truly just live authentically with what felt that I wanted to do. And that's what pulled me out to LA. And this is where I write about in my book, you don't have to be the most experienced or the most talented or the best, because I'd only been acting for 2 years. And I started to go into these auditions, and I was going into these auditions not really thinking about, oh, I need to get this job. It was like, I'm just glad to be here, man. Like, I'm glad to be alive. I appreciate just being here. I love storytelling. I love inspiring other people. And when you step into that path that resonates with you, and you honor yourself, and one of my first acting teachers, and I talk about this in my book, Jackie Siegel was my first acting teacher, and she always stressed to us, you gotta honor yourself. You gotta honor yourself so that when you show up, people know and they have permission then to honor themselves, but then they also know that you're there not just for yourself, but you're there to honor yourself in service of whatever it is that you show up to do. So that's in service of the script, service of the writer, in service of the director. So a lot of this stuff helped me, again, get out of my shell and really start to practice getting out there and being in front of a group of people where it wasn't necessarily about me. It was about what can I do to show up to serve the people in this room. And that's what really enabled me to start booking these big roles. But you're always learning, and you're always, you're going to have times where, like, I booked all my children 3 years after that, and got diagnosed with cancer for the first time. And life is always going to throw roadblocks at you, and that's why it's important to surround yourself with people who
and likewise
are supportive and
can
help you along the way.
Yeah, can we talk about your book?
Sure.
Okay, you guys, this is called Life Lessons from Hollywood and Beyond from the Agile Artist. And first of all, I love this. I saw it in Vegas and I wanted one. So thank you for bringing it. But can we talk about what inspired you to write the book?
So as I started to move through my career as an actor, I felt like it was going the way I wanted it to go. I was getting bigger and better roles, moving from All My Children to Melrose Place, and then I did my movie with Kate Hudson called Something Borrowed, which is an incredible experience.
It's a great movie.
And then from there, I did a TV show with Jennifer Love Hewitt, and then it was right around 2015, I would say, when Netflix really started to come onto the scene. Remember when they would mail you the DVDs
I
in the
do
mail,
remember that.
and then you would like turn them in, and so streaming started to come online. YouTube started to enter into the picture, and so when Something Borrowed came out, people were
That was 2014.
2011 actually.
Oh, 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone was still going to the movie theater, right? And then as these streaming platforms started to come online, TV started getting bigger. People started creating home theaters in their living room. Less and less people started going to they stopped going to the movie theater, where more of the stuff was being streamed, and then many more networks started to pop up onto the scene, where before you had NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox, the 5 networks,
Right.
cable. Then you
Familiar.
started seeing all these like Netflix and Amazon, where the amount of eyeballs on these television shows started to be dispersed over all these, like now we've got 4,000 channels on TV. So the amount of money that the general journeyman actor like myself was able to make just steadily started to decrease. Now there's still that 1%, the Leonardo DiCaprios, the Julia Roberts, George Clooney's.
But those are few and far between.
They're that 1%.
And I don't see them coming up the ranks anymore with the way Hollywood has changed.
Yeah, and really, it's really difficult to make a living as an actor nowadays unless you're that top 1%. You really have to do it for the love of it. And so when it was around 2018, and man, I was just hitting this roadblock after roadblock in terms of getting acting work, or acting work that would actually pay me enough money to sustain myself. I was offered to do this movie with Sylvester Stallone. And just to give you an idea, I made $100,000 with my movie with Kate Hudson. I think she made a few $1 million. But because I was a newer actor, that's what your rate is. And your agent takes 10% of that. Your manager takes 10% of that. Your lawyer takes 5%. So right away, 25% of your salary is out the window. Then you pay taxes. So I went from $100,000 in my movie with Kate Hudson to being offered this movie with Sylvester Stallone for $4,000.
Oh my God.
Take it or leave it. Now, growing up watching Rocky, I'm like, I'm going to take it because it's an opportunity. But after I did the movie, I was like, I need to start finding something outside of this to be able to enable me to continue to do this. And that's where I started to look into getting into some real estate. And I decided to leave Hollywood because it felt like it was getting to a place where I wasn't, the doors weren't opening up like they used to. It was right around when my father was sick with cancer, and some family stuff was transitioning. So I'd been away from my family in Chicago for, 15, 20 years. And I felt like it was time to go back home and just reconnect with them, and went back to Chicago in 2018. And again, this is where when you honor yourself and you're on the right path, the right people, the right opportunities show up. I went to go speak at this social media branding event in Chicago, and a woman that was in the audience was a publisher. Her name is Melissa Wilson, and she came up to me afterwards and said, Colin, you have a really amazing story. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And I was like, I wouldn't know the first thing about that.
Right.
But again, when you're on the right path, these people show up, and she encouraged me to write the book. So I spent about 10 months writing the book, and that was in 2019. And it was a life-changing experience because it's a reflection of all the experiences I've had, but what I tried to keep in mind was, if someone were to read this, what could they gain from it to enable them to live a better life? And that's why it's Agile Artist. The title Agile Artist has to do with everyone, I believe, is an artist on a deep level, whether you realize it or not. And it's important to bring an agility and the ability to be flexible in your life, as mine has been, to be able to really navigate the challenges that life presents you. If you show up in life with this closed-minded mindset of this is the way it is and this is who we are, and
a lot of people
we
walk
need
through
to,
life like that, though.
Yep, because there's some comfort and certainty in that. But the one certainty in life is that life is always changing. And unfortunately, when people are trying to hold on to the past, it can keep you stuck in this place of feeling anxious and afraid, which can cause all kinds of problems, which is, I think, what we're seeing play out in the United States right now. And so what my message is with the book is trying to encourage people to be a little more open-minded about tapping into and discovering what you are capable of doing to overcome these challenges, to level up, to meet the moment or own the moment when the moments in our life matter most. And that's the title of my keynote that I now give. And just the life lessons from Hollywood and beyond are a lot of the insights and things that I've learned from my acting teachers. A lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is how to get up in front of an audience and not feel like you're going to throw up. So a lot of what I've trained in is neuro-linguistic programming and training your nervous system and your mindset to tap into some of these strategies to be able to be able to get up in front of an audience to share your message. Because I think a lot of us have something to say, but the things that hold us back in life are our own fears and doubts and insecurities about who we are.
Absolutely. So, Colin, what do you think, if you were going to give your last speech, last talk, you're about to die, what would you talk about?
Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and life is all about not being here to please everyone. It's here to fulfill on your purpose, to honor yourself. And by honoring yourself, again, you are giving other people the permission to honor themselves, and to really just try to teach people how to communicate and interact with each other on a level where people feel seen and heard. Because what I've discovered is that is the biggest difference that can help people heal and connect rather than stay divided and want to fight each other. And you just look on a basic survival level of what's going on in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty and fear and fighting, and what is required is great leadership who knows how to communicate, who knows how to be the voice for the voiceless. And this is what I'm inspired to teach with my Beyond Impact Communications Consultancy, which I do now. I work with speakers and coaches and politicians and leaders, and how to tap into the deeper level purpose of your message, how to articulate that, how to connect with the people that you do want to lead. And a lot of people are looking for leadership nowadays.
Yes, they are.
And unfortunately, the leadership that is out there for some reason seems to be speaking to our
baser levels
of survival.
Yes.
And I think we are capable of better than this. I think we're capable of aspiring and holding the space for being able to be around a group of people where we have differences of opinions, and not try to destroy and eliminate those differences of opinions, but to appreciate and have a conversation where people are seen and heard. People are so quick to want to tell everyone their opinion. But the only way in which you're going to allow anyone to feel that you're going to create any sort of connection or change is you've got to hear what the other side has to say.
I don't know why we don't look for win-win solutions, you know? Why can't both people be right? Why does one have to be wrong and the other one right? I just find that just interesting. Good thing I didn't go into politics.
Question. Yeah, it's a good question. But I think what I'm inspired by is, there's different needs that we have as human beings. And there's our survival needs. Then there's our needs to be seen and create significance and tap into our purpose. But above and beyond that, we have this need to connect to something that is more purposeful on a deeper spiritual level.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what TV and film help people do, and why people love watching TV shows and movies, which is on a deep level what inspires me to continue to be an actor. Because storytelling, whether that's on TV or in film or on the stage as a speaker, you have the ability to help people feel human again. And especially with all this AI and technology being thrown out there in the world, it's making us feel disconnected and forget what it means to be a human being.
Okay.
So,
well, you're leading to my next two questions. How has AI impacted the acting business? It's definitely impacted the speaking business. And
how has it impacted the speaking business?
Because a lot of people aren't writing their own stuff anymore. They're relying too much on technology and they're getting lazy about it. So that's one way. And the other thing is, again, and we talked about this before, is influencers. Influencers have way too much influence. Just because they're good influencers doesn't mean they're great actors or speakers.
Yeah, I would say the way AI is affecting Hollywood now is, the economics of it. Unfortunately, Tyler Perry was about to invest $2 billion into a new studio down in Atlanta. And once he saw Sora, which is one of these AI platforms that you can create your own films and realistic video content, he decided not to do that. I think we're seeing a lot of the industry has always been trying to cut costs and to make movies at a lower budget. But I think what happens is when you're relying on AI, you're removing the human element and component about all of this, which is making us feel further disconnected. So I think there will always be a need and a want for real actors in movies that were written by real people. And I think it's getting smaller, unfortunately. But I think it will always be there because, whether you get an email from someone who wrote it with AI, or you get these canned messages, or you're talking to someone, customer service, who's AI. I don't know about you, but it makes me feel just further disconnected to human beings. So I think just at a deep level, we crave AI that connection.
As a tool.
Yes.
But not as a replacement.
Yeah.
It's a cool sidekick, as my friend Matt calls it. It's a cool sidekick, but the human soul cannot be replaced.
Agreed.
Whether it's on the stage or on the screen.
Agreed.
Well, Colin, this has been an amazing interview. One thing I'd like to say, what can event planners expect from you when you come and speak to them?
So the things that I like to talk about are resiliency, having gone through the World Trade Center experience 3 times with my cancer journey. There's a lot of things that I've learned about resiliency and how to move forward and navigate the uncertain, navigate the challenges that stand in your way. And it really just comes down to deciding who you want to be in the face of all of this. My core principles that I talk about are inspiration and tapping into your unique voice. And again, a lot of the success with anything in life, whether that's personally or professionally, especially in business, is creating those authentic personal relationships that create trust and create rapport, so that if you're in sales, for example, I talk to salespeople all the time about how to walk into that room, create authentic connection, because as I write about in my book, I've gone on over 2,000 auditions in my career. That's 2,000 times walking into these rooms and having to create instant rapport, connecting with whoever it is that you're in front of, knowing what they need and delivering it to them and giving it to them with not just information, but giving it to them with the connection on a deep, authentic level of knowing that you see them, you hear them, and that you care. And from all of my practices of learning how to break down these characters and going to these rooms to breathe life into these characters, that's one of the things that I love to do, is to just breathe life into a room, breathe life and inspiration into an audience so that when they leave, they will have felt that they've walked away with practical tools and insight on how to connect authentically with another human being. And then also just understanding who they are on a deep foundational level, what their purpose is, so that when you go out into the world and have to face your own challenges and navigate whatever it is those obstacles are, both personally and professionally, you are armed with the tools, the practical insight, and the inspiration to be able to navigate anything that you come across in your life.
Wow. And I can vouch for that because I actually saw him speak for the first time in Vegas. Not his first time, certainly, but mine. And I got to tell you, you had the audience in the palm of your hands. It was an amazing experience, very interactive presentation as well. So if you're looking for an amazing speaker, Colin Egglesfield is your man. Colin, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Leah. Appreciate you and look forward to serving anyone out there who's looking for some support.
This has been Leah Woodford with SpeakerLife Magazine. Thanks for watching.